Hello, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining me. Today we're taking a look at my first Sony. Actually, it wasn't my first Sony, or indeed even the first Sony. I guess this one was. Well, first Walkman anyway. We'll look at that another day. But for today, we're looking at this one. Now, I used to refurbish all sorts of stuff, and Fisher-Price cassettes and all kinds of old kids' toys and things like that. And I'm having a bit of a sort out at the moment. And I was looking at this and thought, well, I'd always wanted to get it working properly. It's grubby, it's grimy, the tape player doesn't work. So I thought, you know what, just for a bit of fun, let's take a look at it on the channel. So, as I say, it's a radio cassette player, recorder as well in fact, and it dates from like 1980s or maybe 1990, something like that. So, yeah, getting on a bit. Nice primary colours, but this one is pretty faded. It's scratched up, it's got general sort of, I don't know, dullness and patina to it. The aerial is intact, which is a good thing. It is missing its microphone, but you know, it is what it is. Now, what can I tell you? It's obviously has some sort of sticker or something on the front. It's all got residue and glue on the speaker cover there, and just generally nasty, a bit mouldy looking and a bit grimy. So we're going to give it a deep clean and a polish. The radio on it does work, as I say, and the needle works as well. You can see that moving through there. But the tape player doesn't work, and I've tried it through mains adapter and through batteries, and that's all okay. So I was at the stage where I was thinking, well, shall I just throw it away? Shall I donate it? But who wants some tired old partially working unit anyways? And it seemed a bit of a shame to just sort of lob it. So I thought, well, let's have a look, see if we can refresh it. And I had a look online, and they're actually fetching a fair amount of money, to be honest. They're holding their price quite well, so it might be worth just fixing it up and seeing if I can just sell it on for a fairly sensible price. Also, it'd be nice to look at the mech in this, because I think it's going to need a new belt. Be interesting to see the quality of this. I've just actually this morning done a quick video, general purpose video on repairing Walkman style items, and this particular one is rather a nasty little unit from around the same time, and I've got a feeling that this one, even though it's a kid's toy, is going to be much nicer overall. Now, I've already made a start on this. Like I say, it's been hanging around for a long time. I've had it in the workshop a couple of years, I think, gathering dust, and I looked at it a few days ago and I couldn't get the screws out of the back, and they'd been soaking, and I got most of them to work loose. It was really hard work, I've got to be honest. Two of them wouldn't go at all. They completely rusted in, and yeah, it didn't matter what I did because they're rebated. None of the usual tricks about oversized screwdrivers or hex heads or trying to dremel a little groove in there for a screw. You can't, it was just impossible. The top surface had turned almost to cheese, but the rest of it was still really solid and bedded in and wouldn't unscrew. So I've just drilled out the caps, I think at least, for the two that wouldn't move. And the first job is just to finish removing the screws. Now, I genuinely haven't had this open yet. I've removed the screws, or at least unscrewed them partially, just so that I knew whether or not I'd broken the head off the screws when I drilled them out, just to see if I could get a tiny bit of movement there. So let's start, for what is genuinely the first time, to now remove. You can probably see how rusty they are. See the head on that one, and this one's obviously been soaking in penetrating oil for a couple of days as well. So yeah, they're all like that. They're all really crusty. You can probably hear that when I undo them. So anyways, I'm going to get these out. Let's see what we're up against. Right, that's a long one. I'll come back to that one later. It's loose at least. So yeah, like I was saying, it was really hard work trying to get these screws out. They were really, you know, like when you've got to sort of almost force them and they want to shear, and you've got to like loosen them back and kind of start breaking them loose. So they were pretty grotty, and again, you may just see that. Obviously inside they're like new, but the heads were sort of all rusted in and just not nice at all. So that's all of them loose. And now we've got the two that I drilled out as well. So let's just see if we can open this. Do I need to open the battery door? Let's have a look. Right, well that's loose to there. I'm trying to get that screw out. Right, it's definitely still stuck on that corner, but I'm pretty sure when I drilled it that I managed to get the head separated from the screw, and there is a rubber foot there. So let's try and get that off. Because it may be that this foot is holding it in, potentially. Come on, right. There we go. Ugh, gross. Alright, dread to think what that is. Now, will it now come apart? That's the question. Yes, nice. And there's that last screw as well. Beautiful. Okay guys, I've got no idea. Now, it was supposed to eject. Hope I haven't broke that eject mechanism doing that now. You are supposed to eject the door first, but because I was just seeing if it was going to crack open, it finally went. It finally went and took the lid with it, which is really annoying. Because now it's come away and I've probably broken the mech. We'll come back to that in a minute. And there's that screw. Wow, what's that one there? Oh, that's the... Okay, so this one is the head. This is the screw that I drilled out. Oh, what a nightmare, man. I'm just going to see if I can get that out now. I don't think it's coming actually. Whew, my lord. Okay. Tell you what, let's put a Sharpie on it. Just want to see whether or not it's actually turning. Blimey. You could see why a rusty head on that screw was never going to get this loose. I can't even get it off with a pair of pliers. Right, a couple of quick things. One, I cannot get that out for love nor money. I'm hurting my hand trying to get it out. Plus also it serves as a nice locating pin because it does go into the back case. So actually may as well just leave it there. And also I wanted to just put the face back on for a minute to make sure I hadn't broken the eject door. And it still works. So that's fine. I wanted to make sure of that now at this juncture, because obviously if I'd gone and done a number on it, servicing the mech's pointless if a door won't stay closed. So again, steady as she comes, and you'll see what I mean about leaving that screw in there. It goes into that post, so it just helps us a bit anyway. Right, that can go away for a proper clean at some point. In the meantime, here's the unit. So obviously the speaker's just there. You'll see how the tuner engages with that gear. That runs along there. That needs a clean. There's your volume pot. Fairly simple board. Fairly simple mech. Bit dirty, bit grotty. However, I reckon we might be alright with this. I'm going to get these screws out. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I just want to get it working, to be honest. It's never going to be a prime listening device. However, let's see what we've got. I'm not even going to put a decent belt in it, to be honest. I'm not trying to make this into something that it's not. this away somehow, like so. Ugh, at least it allows us to give it a good clean, I suppose. Getting it back in might be tricky though. Right, okay, so what have we got on this side? It's very typical actually. I've seen Sony boomboxes from around this time that have got a very similar mechanism. Right. Yeah, all a bit tied in. It's tied in by the motor on this side. Come on. Oh, it's glued. There we go. And then the heads plug in over there. Okay, so that comes through there and unplugs. And then this one unplugs from here. There we go. So we've got an LA4160 power amp. There's your record bar. There's your switches. We will give them a bit of a clean perhaps in a bit. Yep, right, okay, and here we go then. So, and there we go. Right, so we've got two belts. The internal belt for fast forward and rewind is marginal. We could replace it if needs be. And then the main drive belt is just under there. Well, this looks like it's going to be a bit of a giggle to get on. So first thing we'll do is see if we can get it off. So, we'll get that from there. Oh, not so bad at all actually. There we go, how's that? Perfect little teardrop shape. Right, as I say, I'm not going to put a decent belt on. Look at the state of this. All just needs a decent clean. So I'm going to go ahead, get all the nastiness and the gunk off of this, find a belt that's more or less the same size. As I say, I think even that transfer belt's slipping as well, to be fair. Okay. Alrighty. Let's do that one as well. There she goes. So we'll replace both of those, but first I'm just going to give everything a bit of a clean. I mean, look at the state of my hands already, and all I've done is take the thing out. I'm giving the head a token clean here. To be honest, it looks spotless. It's been well used though. The pinch roller's got a fair amount of ferrite on it. So anyway, I'm going to clean all of this up. Clean the transport controls, clean the gears, just generally go through it. I mean, you can see I've only just touched that and it's black. So I'm going to work my way through this. Then I'm going to clean up the chassis, get rid of the grime and the goo, put a bit of contact cleaner and, or at least a bit of lubrication in these switches, clean them up. Oh dear, bigger job than I thought. Alright, I've cleaned up the mech. There's obvious discoloration in various places from sun fade and things like that, but I'm certainly not about to try and prise off all the bits and start retrobiting these. This is just a quick, cheap and cheerful thing, see if we can get it running again. So to that end, I'm just going to fish through some of these belts. As I say, I'm not interested in putting 10 quid's worth of decent belts on this. It's not worth very much at all. Just want to get it up and running just for a bit of fun, and if someone wants to put a tape in it, they can have a little listen to some stuff. These cheap belts aren't that bad, but obviously they're not perfect, but they'll be fine for what we need to do today. So I'm going to go and get these on, and we'll see if it's working in a moment. So there's the transport belt on, that's all working nicely. I'm going to try and put this main drive belt on now, and it's worth mentioning that there is actually a little hole here to adjust the speed, a little screw on the motor, and you can access it. I noticed when I was cleaning the casing that you can access the motor speed without opening it up directly from the back, so that's nice to know. We can fine tune it a bit later. That's both the belts on now. We've got the main drive belt and the transfer belt. Everything's working tickety-boo, feels good. So I'm going to get this back together and give it a final deep clean and a polish, and we'll see if we can get it working. just making a quick dry run at this stage just to see if everything's working okay. I can always adjust the speed, as I say, from the back once we do this, but I noticed that even with the power in the side here, it's not working. No power at all, and the connection seems good on the plug on the board, which tends, oh there you go, I was going to say, it tends to suggest the problem is at the motor end. And would you believe it, we've got a broken wire that's come away from the motor, and that's the positive supply to the motor. Let's just very quickly see if we can take some of this back a minute. We'll tin it up and solder it back on in a minute, but let's just see if it works first. Right, what have we got? Okay, that should be making the contact. I'm going to trim this one back and put them both on. Refresh the solder, put them both back on. Okay, we're soldered up. Does it work this time? Let's press play. Yes, it does. Fast forward, rewind. Perfect. Good stuff. So we've got the top cover on. Everything's screwed into place. So let's just try a bit of music in this, see what happens. First we'll select it back to tape and play. And nothing. Okay, maybe something's catching, so let's have another look. There wasn't a lot of clearance underneath that, so I've just made sure that all the cables are properly out of the way, and now it's running without issue. So let's try that tape again. Nice, well it's working, that's good. And try the other side. Beautiful. Alrighty, so got some random stuff on this one.
How long is it since you've been away from the homeland?
Oh, I left Edinburgh in 1959. I was born in Portree but brought up in Edinburgh. Left in 59 and I've been away ever since.
Well, there you go, left in 59, been there ever since. Okie dokie, so all I've got to do now is drop a tiny bit of cleaner in that volume pot. There was a bit of a crackle there, and get it back together, a deep clean, and we'll have a proper look. I'm just going to sand some of these screws back before I put them in. Just going to drag the heads across some fairly coarse paper. There's a little bit of penetrating fluid on there as well. Just stop it corroding next time quite so quick. They won't be perfect, but they'll be better than they were, that's for sure. Okay, it's all reassembled now. A quick cursory check.
Scottish dance.
Right, I always come back to Scotland if I possibly can. That's why I'm here in the hydro.
Well, we're delighted to...
Good, well that's working fine. So, next job, let's tackle this grime. It's really everywhere, it's disgusting actually. All caught up in the gaps there, it's black, it's faded, it's scuffed up. So I'm going to give us a deep clean, get some polishing compound on there. It's not going to be perfect like I say, but it will be better. This particular thing here, I was going to see if I could sand that out. There's some scuffs and what have you in it, but to be honest, I think it looks like a vinyl adhesive covering on that, and I think if I try and sand that, I'm just going to make it look worse. So I'm just going to leave that as part of the history of the unit. But anyway, deep clean, polish. I'll see you on the other side of a fade. So here it is then, the Sony CFM-2500, my first Sony. Not a bad little unit in the end. It's been languishing in the workshop for longer than I'd like to think about, and it was time to finally do something with it. But it didn't really work. The cassette didn't work at all. It was tired, it was forlorn, scruffy and dirty. But it did seem a shame to consign it to the junkyard, and it was definitely worth taking a look at, see if we could get it up and running again. So what have we done? Well, basically just giving it some TLC, giving it a deep clean and a polish. I think you'll agree, it looks fantastic now, or at least as good as it can for its age and original condition when it was here. And the radio did work, so let's just have a little listen to that first.
Big glass house with the view. I thought you know someone to come and show me the way. So we pray for some Chevy. We got something in common with scuba divers, working the guys in deep.
And you can see it's a pretty decent little radio, to be honest. I did kill the lights just to stop the LEDs interfering with the FM just then. So let's take a listen to the tape now that we've put 2 new belts in. And the original belts really were terrible shape, kind of like eggs really, more than circles. But let's have a look.
Who's your lady friend? I do like to be beside the seaside, and with 100 pipers, John the dance is a military two-step.
All right.
And fast forward. Lovely and smooth and quiet. Rewind, super fast as well.
59, and I've been away ever since.
And you've kept up your interest in Scottish dancing.
Too right. I always come back to Scotland.
There we go. Probably the most random demonstration tape ever. But as I said earlier, this is one that came in an original unit that I bought many years ago. And I've got to laugh because it really is. Sometimes I get the most random things left in the machines when I get hold of them. It's quite funny. So it's always nice to reuse them a little bit. Do hit the subscribe button, and I might finally get around to making a copyright-free music tape that we can all listen to instead. So in terms of the actual mech on this though, it's not that bad a sort of unit, I guess. It was a metal base for the cassette, and it kind of works quite nicely really. A dual belt system, as you saw, and it was very typical of the Sony boomboxes from the late 80s, early 90s, and they've kind of just taken a unit like that and put it into this kids machine. But I've got to say, I've seen a lot worse. It's certainly better than a lot of other units from its time, even as so-called grown-up machines. But there you go, it didn't work, did it? It needed the motor wires soldering back on, needed the belts doing, needed a darn good clean. It really was filthy inside and out. I'm rabbiting on now, but let's just say I'll call this one finished. Hopefully it'll find a happy new home somewhere, either to be enjoyed or just a nice little display piece on a shelf somewhere. Maybe a bit of history for someone that used to have one years ago. Anyway, I'll be back soon with what I would call proper machines, boomboxes, Walkmans. We've got 8-track players, vintage electronic games. Do check out my other videos. I've got about 400 or so on the channel now, so check out my previous library, and I'll look forward to catching up with you soon. In the meantime, stay safe and all the best for now. Bye bye.
That's why I'm here in the hydro.
Well, we're delighted to see you, John, and back to the business in hand. The tune titles, If You're Irish, Hello, Hello, Who's Your Lady Friend, I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside, and with 100 pipers, John the dance is a military two-step.
All right.